Audrey sat frozen in her boss's office, the words, "You're not ready for leadership," ringing in her ears. Mr. Crawford, her smug manager, leaned back in his leather chair, dismissing her 3 years of late nights and ideas that had saved his department. "Stick to spreadsheets," he said, waving her out. That night, Audrey opened a secret folder on her laptop labeled Plan B, filled with freelance clients she'd quietly helped after hours. She'd always feared taking the leap, but Crawford's smirk burned in her mind. "Fine," she whispered. "I'll build my own table." For months, Audrey juggled her day job and her side hustle, surviving on coffee and protein bars. She used her lunch breaks to pitch small businesses Mr. Crawford's company ignored. A bakery needing a better website, a mechanic shop wanting modern billing software. Her first client paid her in cupcakes. But when Mr. Crawford found out, he called her into his office again. "Pathetic," he scoffed, tossing her freelance contract on the desk. "You'll crawl back once this little fantasy fails." Audrey quit that afternoon, her hands shaking, but her resolve steady. The early days were brutal. She worked from her tiny apartment, her savings draining fast. Then came a twist. One of Mr. Crawford's biggest clients, a chain of gyms, reached out to her. "He quoted us triple your rate," the owner admitted. Audrey's hands flew across her keyboard, designing a membership app in half the time Crawford's team had promised. When the gym signed with her, Mr. Crawford retaliated. He spread rumors online. "Audrey's a scam artist. She'll ruin your business." Panic set in, until her old co-worker, Maya, leaked screenshots of Crawford stealing Audrey's ideas. The post went viral. Clients flooded in. Audrey hired Maya and 2 others Crawford had laid off. Together, they landed a hotel chain Crawford had arrogantly turned down. Too small, he'd said. But Audrey's personalized booking system turned the hotels into a viral travel hack. Meanwhile, Mr. Crawford's company began to crumble. His outdated software glitched during a major demo, costing him investors. Desperate, he slashed prices, then begged Audrey for a merger. "You need my experience," he insisted over coffee. Audrey slid his old rejection letter across the table. "I needed belief. I found it in myself." A year later, Audrey's company moved into a sleek downtown office, right across from Crawford's half-empty building. At her launch party, Maya handed her a framed photo, Crawford carrying a box of his belongings to a beat-up car. Audrey hung it next to her first freelance contract, the one paid in cupcakes. That night, as she locked up, her phone buzzed. A news alert. Crawford Solutions files for bankruptcy. Audrey smiled, turning off the lights. Her old desk, now a plant corner in her thriving headquarters. The spreadsheet girl had rewritten her story, one rejected promotion at a time. Audrey's victory felt sweet, until the first storm hit. A month after Crawford's bankruptcy, her biggest client, the hotel chain, suddenly threatened to leave. Their CEO claimed her booking system had a critical error causing double charges. Panic rippled through her team, but Audrey stayed calm. She dug into the code herself, working through the night. What she found shocked her. Someone had tampered with the system. The digital fingerprints pointed to an old Crawford Solutions IP address. Crawford hadn't just faded away. He'd planted a time bomb in her work. Audrey confronted him outside his crumbling office. He laughed, his breath smelling of cheap whiskey. "You think you're untouchable? I trained you." She said nothing, handing him a subpoena for cyber sabotage. As he sputtered, her phone buzzed. Her team had already fixed the code and added new security layers. The hotel CEO apologized, doubling their contract. "Integrity matters," he said. Audrey didn't mention Crawford's name, but the chaos sparked something bigger. News of the hack went viral, painting Audrey as the scrappy underdog fighting corporate ghosts. Investors lined up, eager to fund her anti-Crawford brand. She hired more of his former employees, including his stern old CFO, Helen, who admitted he never listened. "You do." With Helen's help, Audrey bought Crawford's abandoned office at auction for less than the price of his fancy leather chairs. On move-in day, Audrey found a dusty box in Crawford's old desk. Inside were files proving he'd stolen her ideas for years, even a rejected patent application with her name scribbled out. She framed it beside her bankruptcy news clip. That night, as her team celebrated, a young intern asked, Weren't you scared he'd ruin you? Audrey glanced at the framed sabotage subpoena. Scared? Number prepared? Always. The final twist came quietly. Months later, Audrey's app won a global tech award. On stage, thanking her team, she spotted Crawford in the crowd, working as a security guard. He turned away, but not before she saw his badge. Irony, she whispered, smiling. Back home, she opened a new Plan B folder. This one, a scholarship fund for women in tech. Crawford's name wasn't on the list, but his mistakes. They'd built her empire. Audrey's scholarship fund quickly became her proudest achievement. Applications poured in from young women worldwide, each story more inspiring than the last. But one application stopped her cold. Emily Carter. The name meant nothing, but the essay mentioned growing up with a father who prioritized his ego over his family. Emily's attached photo showed a girl with Crawford's sharp nose and stubborn chin. Audrey's stomach dropped. She'd vowed never to let his shadow touch her work again. She almost deleted the application. Instead, she invited Emily for coffee. The girl arrived nervous, clutching a worn laptop. My dad never believed in me, Emily admitted, unaware of Audrey's history with her last name. He said tech was a man's world. Audrey's chest tightened. What's his name? She asked casually. Richard, Emily said. Richard Walker. Relief washed over Audrey until Emily added, he changed it after the bankruptcy. Used to be Crawford. Audrey froze. Emily's eyes widened. You're the woman who ruined him. The air thickened. He deserved it, Audrey said bluntly. Emily's face flushed. He did, but I didn't. She slid a flash drive across the table. He kept this. I think it's yours. At home, Audrey opened the drive. It held years of Crawford's hidden deals, proof he'd sold stolen tech to rivals. One file named her old freelance clients as targets. Her hands shook, not from anger, but realization. Emily had handed her a weapon to destroy Crawford, again. But Audrey hesitated. Crushing him further felt empty now. The next morning, she called Emily. The scholarship is yours, but this drive, it's yours too. Decide what justice means. Emily paused. I want to learn from you, not be you. Audrey smiled for the first time. Then let's build something better. Weeks later, news broke that Crawford's old partners were being sued. Not by Audrey, but by Emily, who'd anonymously leaked the files. Audrey's inbox flooded with requests to comment. She replied with one line, the future belongs to those who rewrite the rules. That night, as Audrey scrolled through Emily's first project, a mentorship app for girls, her phone lit up. Unknown number. She's better than both of us. Don't ruin her. Crawford. She blocked him, then texted Emily. Ready for lunch tomorrow. We have work to do. The past couldn't haunt her anymore, but the future, it was hers to shape. The mentorship app's launch was a whirlwind of success. Downloads skyrocketed, and media dubbed it the future of girls in tech. But days later, a viral article accused the app of failing to protect minors, citing anonymous complaints. Audrey's stomach churned as she scrolled through the comments. How? She muttered. Emily, pale-faced, pointed to a cluster of fake profiles flooding the reviews. They're using the same tactics Crawford did, she whispered. Audrey's team traced the IP addresses to a shell company linked to Crawford's former lawyer. Fury burned in her chest, but Emily gripped her arm. Let me fix this. Together, they live-streamed a raw, unscripted Q&A. Audrey explaining their security protocols. Emily coding live to expose the fake accounts. Viewers watched as firewalls tightened and lies unraveled. By dawn, the hashtag number sign, We See You trended. Users rallying behind them. The storm passed, but Emily's hands still shook. What if I become like him, she blurted one night, staring at her reflection in Audrey's office window. Audrey handed her a faded photo from the scholarship files, a teenage Audrey, dismissed by a teacher for daydreaming too big. Fear of becoming a monster, she said, means you're nothing like one. Weeks later, a Silicon Valley titan offered millions to acquire the app. Audrey's team held their breath. No, she said flatly, we answer to girls, not shareholders. The refusal made headlines, but Audrey's focus stayed sharp, expanding the app's language options, partnering with schools in rural areas. One evening, as Audrey left work, she spotted a figure across the street, Crawford, hunched in a frayed coat, watching her office. Their eyes met. He nodded once, almost grudgingly, before vanishing into the subway. Audrey didn't look away until he was gone. At home, she opened Emily's latest update, a feature letting girls mentor each other. The first post read, "My dad said I'd fail. Here's my coding trophy." Audrey screenshot it, sending it to Emily with a caption. "The best endings start with someone else's beginning." The app's global launch party buzzed with laughter and tears. Emily stood beside Audrey, both holding cupcakes. A nod to Audrey's first payment. No cameras, no speeches. Just a room full of girls rewriting their futures, one click at a time. Crawford's shadow, nowhere in sight. The global recognition of the mentorship app brought unexpected scrutiny. During a live demo at a tech summit, Audrey's screen flickered, a glitch morphing into a pixelated skull and crossbones. The crowd gasped. Backstage, Emily frantically typed, tracing the hack to a dormant server Crawford had used years prior. But this wasn't Crawford's work. It was his former lawyer, now a disgraced consultant seeking revenge. "You took everything from him," a snarling email read. "Now I'll take everything from you." Audrey's team worked in silence, the office lit by the eerie glow of monitors. At 3 a.m., Emily discovered a backdoor in the app's code. A vulnerability hidden since Crawford's sabotage. "We patch this, and the whole system reboots," she said, exhaustion cracking her voice. Audrey nodded. "Do it." The fix worked, but the hacker retaliated, leaking old emails between Audrey and Crawford. Headlines blared, "Mentorship CEO once collaborated with fraudster." Followers questioned her integrity. Audrey's hands trembled, not from fear, but fury. She called a press conference, flanked by Emily and her first client, the bakery owner. "Those emails," Audrey said, "show me rejecting Crawford's shady deals. Integrity isn't perfection. It's choosing right when it's hard." The bakery owner added, "She paid me in cupcakes when I had nothing. That's who she is." The crowd's skepticism melted into applause. Later, Emily found Audrey staring at Crawford's empty office across the street. "He's gone," Emily said. "But his ghosts aren't," Audrey replied. The next morning, a package arrived, a flash drive with a note. "Check the news." Emily plugged it in. Footage showed Crawford's lawyer being arrested, the hacker's identity exposed. The anonymous tipster, Crawford himself. His scrawled postscript read, "Even monsters hate copycats." Audrey burned the note. "You believe him?" Emily asked. "No," Audrey said, "but I believe us." That night, the app's users organized a global Girls Code Together event, crashing the hackers' servers with their traffic. Audrey watched the map light up, tiny dots of resilience spanning continents. Emily grinned. "They're not just users, they're an army." As midnight struck, Audrey received a final email, a photo of Crawford boarding a bus to a small coastal town, his back hunched, a single suitcase in hand. No return address. She deleted it and joined Emily, who was laughing with a group of interns. The past was ash, the future, a fire they'd built together. Audrey's app soared to 10 million users, a milestone celebrated with confetti and tears in her now bustling office. But days later, a sleek offer landed in her inbox. Technova, a billion-dollar education giant, wanted to partner on a global mentorship summit. The deal promised funding, reach, and prestige. Audrey hesitated, remembering Crawford's hunger for power, but Emily urged, "This could help so many girls." They signed, unaware of the fine print. The partnership began smoothly until Audrey noticed Technova's CEO smirking at her during a press call, a smirk too familiar. That night, Emily burst into her office, laptop trembling in her hands. The shell company funding Technova. It's linked to Crawford's old accounts. Audrey's blood ran cold. Digging deeper, she found Crawford's initials buried in offshore paperwork. He'd quietly invested in Technova during his downfall, betting against her one last time. Confronting Technova's CEO, Audrey demanded answers. "Crawford's gone," he shrugged. "But money? That's forever." He threatened to leak edited clips of their meetings, framing her as a sellout if she backed out. Audrey's team panicked, but she silenced them with a raised hand. "We don't negotiate with ghosts." The next morning, she canceled the deal live on social media, exposing Technova's ties to Crawford. The CEO retaliated, releasing a manipulated video of Audrey admitting to compromising user data. Followers erupted in doubt, until thousands of app users flooded platforms with unedited screen recordings of their mentorship sessions. "We've got your back," tweeted a teen from Mumbai, her coding certificate held high. Technova folded under the backlash. Audrey, meanwhile, launched a crowd-funded Truth in Tech initiative, inviting users to co-design the app's future. Emily, now leading a team of teen developers, unveiled a feature exposing corporate lies in real time. At the launch, a reporter asked, "How do you keep winning?" Audrey smiled, glancing at Emily. "We don't play their games. We change the rules." That night, as she left the office, a familiar figure lingered outside, a Technova investor, head bowed. "Crawford warned me you'd ruin everything," he muttered. Audrey kept walking. "Funny," she called back. "He never warned me about me." The app's next update, a glowing integrity meter, rated companies worldwide. Crawford's old empire scored 0. Audrey's, a perfect 100. The past was buried. The future, unstoppable. The integrity meter became a global sensation, with users proudly sharing their scores. Until a legal letter arrived. Crawford Solutions' bankrupt shell company, now owned by shadowy investors, sued Audrey for stealing intellectual property. They claimed her mentorship app's code was built on Crawford's old systems. The media pounced, dredging up old rumors. Audrey's inbox flooded with doubts. "Did you really build this alone?" Emily stormed into Audrey's office, eyes blazing. "They're using the files Crawford stole from you to sue us?" Audrey nodded, calm but pale. "We need proof it was always mine." They scoured old backups, but key files were missing, wiped during Crawford's final hack. Panic loomed until Helen, the former CFO, called. "I kept backups," she said. "Crawford made me paranoid." In a dusty storage unit, they found a decade-old server. Audrey's breath caught as she booted it up. There, buried in Crawford's deleted folders, were her original freelance projects, time-stamped years before his patents. The courtroom buzzed as Audrey's lawyer played a video, teenage Audrey presenting a clunky prototype at a college fair, Crawford in the crowd smirking. "That's my app's DNA," Audrey said, sliding the judge a flash drive. "He watched me build it first." The case collapsed. The investors, exposed as Crawford's gambling buddies, vanished overnight. Reporters swarmed Audrey outside the courthouse. "What's next?" one shouted. She smiled, making sure no one else has to fight this fight. That night, Audrey's team launched a free legal hub on the app, connecting girls with lawyers to protect their ideas. Emily, now a face of the feature, demoed it live. "Type your dream here," she told viewers. "We'll help shield it." As Audrey shut down her laptop, a notification popped up, a message from a girl in Nigeria. "I named my project Audrey. No one will steal it now." She screenshotted it, sending it to Emily with a caption, "This is how we win." The next morning, Audrey walked past Crawford's old office, now a buzzing co-working space for her scholarship recipients. A teen waved from the window, her laptop covered in integrity meter stickers. Audrey waved back, her phone buzzing with a new alert. The lawsuit's failure had trended worldwide, paired with a meme. Audrey 100, liars 0. Crawford's shadow faded to a footnote, but Audrey's light, it was just getting brighter. Years later, Audrey's app had become a household name, its integrity meter adopted by schools and governments worldwide. But during a routine update, Emily spotted something odd, a surge of users from a tiny, remote village. The profiles were simple, their projects handwritten. "I want electricity for my school," one girl wrote. "I'll build a wind turbine from scrap." Audrey immediately booked flights, ignoring her team's warnings. If we don't stand with them, what's the point? The village had no internet, just a single tablet shared among dozens. Audrey watched as girls huddled around it, translating her app's tutorials via Apache satellite connection. Their wind turbine, a jumble of wires and bicycle parts, hummed weakly but lit a single bulb. "This is our plan B," the eldest girl said proudly. Audrey's eyes welled. "No," she corrected. "This is plan A." Back home, Audrey redirected funds to build solar-powered tech hubs in remote areas. But at the launch event, a reporter cornered her. "Rumor says you're bankrupting your company for charity. Smart move?" Audrey laughed. "The only balance sheet that matters is theirs." She pointed to a live feed of the Village Girls, now teaching neighboring towns to build turbines. Months later, a surprise email arrived. A nomination for the Global Peace Prize. Audrey declined, insisting the Village Girls take her spot. At the ceremony, their leader, 14-year-old Priya, addressed the world in halting English. "Audrey taught us to fix broken systems, even when others say they're too small to matter." The clip went viral, crashing the app's servers with new signups. That night, Audrey found Emily working late, designing a feature for offline communities. "Remember when we thought winning meant beating Crawford?" Audrey mused. Emily grinned. "Now we're losing sleep over good problems." On Audrey's 40th birthday, her team surprised her with a mural in the office lobby, a collage of girls from every continent, holding bulbs, laptops, and cupcakes. Hidden in the corner was a tiny, fading shadow of a man in a suit, nearly invisible under the bright hues. "Crawford," Audrey guessed. "No," Emily said. "Just a reminder that darkness can't survive where we shine." Audrey retired as CEO the next year, passing the title to Emily. "Your turn to break the rules," she said, handing her the first freelance contract, the one paid in cupcakes. Emily hung it beside Priya's wind turbine blueprint. Now a global advisor, Audrey traveled to villages and boardrooms, always carrying a tablet loaded with messages from girls. One night in a Nairobi tech hub, a teen asked, "How do you stay brave?" Audrey showed her a photo of the mural. "By remembering who builds the light." As her plane lifted into the stars, Audrey opened the app. A notification blinked. 1 million offline projects launched today. She leaned back, smiling. The fight had never been about Crawford, or lawsuits, or even the app. It was about the quiet revolutions sparked in corners the world forgot, and the girls who'd keep igniting them long after her name faded. The end.